Welcome back to Portable, where we look at portable ports of console games. Now, I know the term portable game doesn't mean the same thing it once did with the arrival of the Nintendo Switch, but we are taking a look at one very specific version of a game I cherish dearly, so what the heck, figured we'd use this title once again. Anyway, it's been over half a year since Sonic X Shadow Generations popped onto the scene, and now it's back in the conversation. Well, okay, Sega is trying to make it part of the conversation again. Hell, they paid me to talk about it for a minute. All because the game is now available on the newly released Nintendo Switch 2. But I got to wondering while I was reading through that ad and thought to myself, was any of this taking advantage of the new hardware to give the game optimized graphics, resolution, and performance? Yeah, all that, true. Now, again, telling you up front, they did pay me for the ad, and they probably weren't too happy to see what video I attached that ad to, but I did go out of my way and bought my own copy with my own money to give you my real honest thoughts about the Switch 2 version of Sonic X Shadow Generations. This video is not sponsored in any way by Sega. Okay, well, I guess technically I do still get a little tiny bit of a commission if you buy Figgies through me, and some of the Figgies lines are Sega characters, and I imagine a lot of you would want to pick up the Sonic characters. And I'll have that link down below if you are interested. This isn't an ad space that Figgies paid for, so I can just say whatever I want. So in that case, buy them, you stupid idiot. But seriously, I wanted to accomplish two specific things with this video. One, how is the Switch 2 version of this game? And two, saying two a lot in the sentence, I wanted to see how I'm feeling about this game over half a year later. Well, okay, technically half a year for one campaign and like 14 years for the other, but you get it. There are a couple of controversial things here that you need to be aware of going into this specific release. First off, it's $50. I've certainly seen the game cheaper than that, and it will certainly be on sale again, but whether or not it's worth the money is going to be up to you. And another thing to consider, especially if you're a physical collector, you should know that the game doesn't actually exist on the cartridge if you buy this from a store. This is a game key card. It's just a code on a piece of plastic. None of the actual game is on that cart, meaning you will need internet access to get this sucker up and running on your Switch 2 and at least 24 gigabytes of free memory. I know lengthy downloads are nothing new with other consoles, but Nintendo has done a pretty good job with the original Switch in keeping things on cartridges, but with this generation, they're trying their hand with these game key cards, and honestly, they feel a little patronizing, taking a toyetic step towards an entirely digital future. And even though it's just giving you a code, you will still need the cartridge anytime you want to play the game. So really, at that point, all you really have is a digital game with an annoying extra step without any of the safety that is something you'd expect from owning physical media. So unless you really care about that red piece of plastic and the case, well, just purchasing the digital version will be a lot more convenient, which I guess is the point. But if you're doing this just to have something on your shelf, you might as well just buy the digital version and steal the game case. I mean, it's not like it has the real game on there anyway. Do I need to point out I'm only joking about stealing things? Do I really need to cover my ass like that? Like, you guys are aware I wasn't serious, right? You don't just do random stupid crap YouTubers tell you to do. Because I could just say anything. I could tell you to do all kinds of crimes. I could just tell you to go kill Sam Procrastinates. That would be insane. Obviously, don't steal. I'm only kidding. Kill Sam. Don't do that. But do come to our panel at Too Many Games this upcoming Saturday.
Kill Sam Procrastinates.
As for me, probably won't be picking up too many of these code cartridges, but this was an exception for me. This is technically the first time in a long time that a Sonic game was a part of a launch lineup for a console. No, it's not a brand new game experience, but it's still nice to see, and that was enough of an excuse for me to give into my FOMO and pick up this game right alongside my brand new Nintendo Switch 2. Now I have it in hand, I do think it's silly they still have that day one banner all these months later. I mean, technically this is day one of the Switch 2, so I guess they can get away with that, but I would think it would have been decent of them to have included all the digital deluxe extras that were available back in October 2024, especially since there's no upgrade path available between the original Switch version and the Switch 2 edition. If you want the fully optimized edition of the game, you gotta throw down a full $50. Now, Now, I don't know if original Switch owners can carry over their digital deluxe purchase to this version. Sound off in the comments if you can confirm that for me one way or the other. And apparently the save file from the original version transfers over to the Switch 2 version, which is nice, I guess, but it doesn't take much time to unlock everything in the game. And if you're spending full price, you might as well roll through the campaigns again if this is a return trip for you. Otherwise, why spend that $50? Of course, if price is a boundary for you, just wait a little bit, it'll be on sale. This game has already been on sale on other platforms, and I promise if you can be patient, it will drop for the Switch 2. Sonic games always do, and you never have to wait too long. You mad about that price tag on Crossworlds? Well, wait 2 months and it'll be half off on a Black Friday deal. That's not a bold prediction, it happens every year. But say you can't wait to play this re-release of a re-release and you gotta drop 50 bones like I did. What do you get for that money? Is this truly an optimized experience for this brand new hardware? Well, I gotta be honest, guys, I was not impressed the first time I plugged this baby in. Severe frame drops, the resolution isn't anything special. I was honestly kinda dumbfounded with how ugly everything was. And to me, I didn't see anything special here that I wouldn't have expected from a properly optimized Switch 1 game. Now, I did play through the Switch version when it first launched, but I don't own it, so I asked Ant Dude to send over some of his footage so I could at least compare the visuals as a little bit of a refresher. And yes, there is a difference for sure, but I think at this point we've all been desensitized and accepting of blurry third-party ports on the original Nintendo Switch. I know this game exists on 2 generations of platforms, but the Switch 2 game isn't doing anything I wouldn't expect from the Switch 1. Yes, I know the Switch 1 version does look worse, but I don't know, man. I just don't think anything this game is doing is all that taxing. At least that was my first impression, and only on the Shadow Generation side of things. Sonic Generations always look cleaner resolution-wise between the 2 campaigns, and that holds true here. But again, I wasn't seeing anything I wouldn't expect out of the original Switch if this was optimized properly. Something felt off when I was playing this the first time. I had heard this game runs at 60 frames, but that is not what I was getting. And that's when I learned that there are 2 modes in Shadow's campaign, image quality or performance mode. So I toggled this over to the other option, and the Hedgehog was running at a smooth 60 frames per second. Never thought I was a frame snob before, but honestly, I don't think I could have tolerated this game without this performance mode. That said, I wasn't sure why we needed 2 modes to begin with. I'm not a developer, but I don't think this game is doing anything that the Switch 2 can't handle. I know Nintendo first-party developers are wizards and they probably have more time and budget and whatever else, but even without knowing the actual behind-the-scenes development of this version of the game, I would bet money that Sega opted for this performance or image quality mode to make sure this port got out in time for the system launch, to make sure they optimized the one thing that was most important to them: sales. With all of that said, keep in mind this was my very first impression, just popping the game in and recording for a little bit. But speaking to some friends or checking other reviews made it very clear that I was the outlier here. Everyone else has been praising this particular port. Ant Dude is doing a very thorough look at a bunch of different games, and I think he's doing a lot with Sonic Generations specifically, so go check out his channel. I'm sure that video will be out sooner rather than later. And my friend Wayne is Boss said that this was comparable to the PS5 version. Most everyone else seems really impressed with this port, so I don't know. Maybe I'm being too critical, maybe I had too much of an expectation for what the Switch 2 can actually do. I don't know, I just wasn't super happy with what I saw. And then I played in handheld mode, and yes, the game looks and plays fantastic on the go. Didn't even have a problem when I switched over to image quality mode. And honestly, if I was gonna play this game on the Switch 2, it's because I want to play this on the go. And that is what I will do going forward after this video, when I want to clean up the rest of the collectibles, S-ranks, missions, and whatever else have you. Part of the reason it looks better, obviously, is because it's on a screen that isn't blown out like it is on a television, so some some of the blurrier textures and other little graphical weak points won't be as noticeable. But Nintendo has given us a big, bright, beautiful screen to work with here. You're not missing much of anything when playing in handheld mode. 1080p looks tasty, and performance mode looks even better because all the smudgy graphics aren't as much of a problem on this screen. Only real drawbacks are the ones that are pretty consistent with this current age of handheld gaming, or at least problems for me specifically, and that's just keeping track of the main character on the screen. All of the lighting flourishes and intricate details used in modern day gaming can sometimes work against you on a smaller screen. I occasionally had trouble figuring out where Shadow was when you put a dark hedgehog against a dark background. None of this was unplayable, but it is something I notice when playing a lot of games on the Switch. And on top of that, unfortunately, I'm not done with my whining just yet. I'm sorry. I still don't think this is the best way to play this game in a portable fashion. If you have a Steam Deck, I'd probably just stick with that version of the game. It looks and runs better there. So it's not the best console version of the game, and it's not the best handheld version of the game. But that doesn't suddenly mean it's a bad game. I've sung its praises quite a bit in a previous video, and all of this nitpicking aside, I still ran credits on both campaigns without much issue here at all. It is far from unplayable, and again, a lot of these nitpicks have to deal with Shadow's campaign specifically. Sonic Generations looks fantastic. End of the day, I do think this is a $50 experience, and I think it runs well enough on the Switch too. This version won't do you dirty. I just don't think this is worth a double dip if you already have other means to play this game. The only one it tops is, well, the original Switch version, and maybe the PS4, Xbox One versions as well. I don't know. I don't even know if those have image quality modes versus performance modes. Again, sound off in the comments. I've not played those versions. So yeah, maybe this is a fault of my own expectations. I do have a Steam Deck, and I have played Shadow Generations there, and I thought it looked great, and maybe I'm just ignorant on the specs between the two machines. I'm a dumb baby. I see a brand new machine, spend a bunch of money on it. I just expect it to be super pretty. End of the day, I don't regret this purchase. I'm still happy I got to buy a Sonic game at a system launch, and I do have a box on a shelf. I will be playing this version of the game more while I'm traveling or whatever else I'm doing, but it's likely I will not be putting the Switch 2 version back onto a TV screen. So there you go. It's better than the original Switch version, but I wouldn't double dip until there's a sale if you already have the original Switch version. If portability is your priority, that's what I would buy it for. Or if the Switch 2 is all you have. Otherwise, yeah, get it for your PS5 or PC or Series X. Whatever the case is though, I do recommend you play this game. Even if some versions are better than others, I've ultimately been impressed with every version. There's not a bad one, there's just better versions. That said though, now that we do have a little bit more Nintendo power to play with, it'd be nice if Sega just casually dropped some ports of other Sonic games that would be fun to check out on the go. Quietly drop Unleashed onto other digital platforms, the adventure games, stuff like that. Why not? Now, with all of that said, how does the game itself hold up now that we are past the honeymoon phase? Well, surprise, surprise, I still love Sonic Generations, and I especially love Shadow Generations, but I do have to admit the constant jumps to Radical Highway can be a bit jarring. Would have been nice if they had at least given us different environments in the different levels to roll through. I mean, if they couldn't change the environments, then just distort the environments we're already in instead of throwing us back into Radical Highway. It really comes down to presentation, and sometimes less is more. If it were up to me, with a little bit of hindsight, I would have left Radical Highway alone until the very last level. Yeah, everyone would expect that to be the last level still, even if you didn't reveal it, and I would have left Act 1 untouched, replicate the Sonic Adventure 2 version as well as you can, and then make Act 2 the one where everything distorts all Inception style. Yeah, I know they still had to introduce Black Doom and they had to do it in a cool way, whatever, but the shtick was already tired by the time we got to the final stages of the game. And that is a minor nitpick. I understand people find the little cutscenes a bit tedious when you have to go through levels over and over again. Ultimately, I don't really mind the Radical Highway sections, at least not to the point where I feel it's an actual problem, but it is something to consider for future games, especially for levels that are meant to be replayed over and over again. But but that wasn't really my biggest hurdle when I jumped back into Shadow Generations. Truth be told, I spent more time just relearning the game mechanics themselves. That always happens when I touch the boost games. Even just a few months away from the game, a game I had beaten front to back, I was still a little rusty, and that only became more apparent when I played Sonic Generations again. Because I gotta admit, back when the game first came out in October 2024, I played a few levels and then just left it alone. I was way more excited to play Shadow Generations and ultimately just played that front to back and made a video on it and just left Sonic Generations alone from there. This time, however, I made sure to at least get through the game and get through the credits. I was gonna also do all the challenges, but well, that proved to be a lot more tedious than I remembered back in 2011. And actually, I have to admit, I was a little disappointed because I was unbelievably excited for Sonic Generations back when it released over a decade ago at this point. But in the years following, the overexposure of all of those environments and other bits of Sonic media left me a little tired, and actually sitting down with the physics of this version of classic Sonic when compared to not only the original Genesis games, but other Sonic games we got in the following years. And yes, even when compared to the likes of Sonic Superstars, I gotta admit, I was having a hard time jumping back into Generations version of the character. Don't get me wrong, it is still a fantastic game overall, but while I was getting to grips with it again, it was an occasionally frustrating experience. Granted, a lot of that comes down to skill issue and being used to certain Sonic physics compared to this version of Sonic, but this game already expects you to handle different skill sets and physics between two different versions of Sonic, and then you just have Shadow over there who plays better overall and on levels that are just laid out better than the Sonic Generations levels. And that should be the case considering there's over a decade between these two campaigns. But when it comes to classic Sonic, at the very least, yeah, I gotta admit, I let a lot of nostalgia carry me through his levels back when this game released in 2011. He just feels too heavy to me. There are so many platforms that are just out of reach, and you feel like you can make it, but you can't. That's not to say it's bad level design. Once you get a flow going, all of this stuff makes sense, but it doesn't feel as freeform as the original classic Sonic games. And no, it's not fair to expect this to play one-to-one with the classics, but it is such a drastic difference that it was a little irritating to me. And I think it's fair to point that out when the whole point of bringing classic Sonic in was to recapture the magic and nostalgia of his glory days on the Genesis. And keep in mind, this was at a time where they were releasing generations between Sonic 4 Episode 1 and Sonic 4 Episode 2. We had a lot of rough times with classic Sonic physics back then. And that platform complaint, that actually applies to both Sonics. I just noticed while I was relearning all these stages, and especially the challenges, I had so much trouble timing my jumps because they relied on a lot of moving badniks and platforms that are just out of your line of view. So you do kind of have to rely on luck. I know that sounds like a weirdly specific complaint, but just for example, in Green Hill Zone, the very first level, there's this one obnoxious buzz bomber that moves so quickly and has such a giant range in its pattern. It really felt like it was luck of the draw if I was going to keep my flow state going and then hit that badnik and hit that upper platform like I wanted to. A lot of this stuff I think probably is problems I'm making for myself because this game is incredibly forgiving when it comes to its letter scores. It's not like missing that badnik was going to kill me. It was just going to lead me to a lower path. And even then, I've gotten S rank just fine. But I guess that's part of the problem for me. I don't feel like I played some of these levels well and it still gave me top scores. There's not a lot there between brain dead easy or annoyingly difficult. None of the main campaign is impossibly hard, mind you, and none of it's bad, or outright bad anyway. It's just slightly annoying while you're getting to grips with things. But man, some of those extra challenges really got under my skin. And I don't think any of us really talk about the challenges too often, because let's be real, after your first time playing Sonic Generations where you go through everything, you go grab everything, you get all the extra music and art and whatever else, do you really go back through all the challenges and repeat playthroughs of Generations? Probably not. And in turn, it's easy to forget just how tedious some of them are, or frustrating. I mean, yeah, some are fun, but a lot of others are mindless or just exist for a cameo, or utilize a stupid gimmick from a level that wasn't any kind of fun to begin with, and you only need to do a handful of these things to get through the game. So yeah, when I got the Switch 2 version of the game, I really tried to go through all of them again, but I decided not to. We'll wait for a proper deep dive into Sonic Generations proper, because otherwise this video would be even later than it already is, and I really just wanted to give you a perspective from somebody trying to find his sea legs again, not somebody who has been playing this one game constantly for years on end. So who knows, maybe I'll have a completely different perspective on all of these challenges when we go check out the original release versus the re-release. All that said, while I was trying some of these challenges, I got so frustrated with some of them, I turned this off and hopped on to Sonic Origins of all things to go chill out. And no, I know it's not perfect, but in terms of being able to play classic Sonic, well, it does the job just fine, and I'm certainly not revisiting Generations to get a classic fix. Now again, I'm mostly speaking about the occasional annoying challenge here or there, and once I got a grip on these hogs, because I'm very good at gripping hogs, Generations proved to be a fun time. It just also feels very heavy and stiff, and the difficulty needed some fine tuning. Not that it's hard, it just isn't very well balanced. It doesn't ramp up in an even fashion. And all that is just way more noticeable when you also have Shadow Generations attached to this thing. Now yes, in Shadow's campaign, you do have to complete every extra challenge, but there aren't that many of them, and every single one of them either teaches you how to better utilize your abilities or get you through its associated level. I know a lot of things do that in Sonic Generations, but there's a lot of needless extra fluff there too. And they also have that stupid extra skill set, which also messes with the physics and all that stuff. I wasn't a big fan of that. But here in Shadow Generations, it's a much more streamlined, balanced experience. Everything informs everything else in the game. I've said that before in the video talking specifically about Shadow Generations, and I only feel that statement is reinforced after rolling the credits on Sonic Generations again. Sega went overkill reusing assets and relying on the nostalgia that initially sold me on the original release of Generations, and once that is gone, well yeah, you're still left with a very good game, but one that feels a little confused, giving us two drastically different playstyles, and honestly, I don't think either of them represent the very best of 2D Sonic or 3D Sonic. And I know that sounds very negative here, and also might sound weird to have a classic cuck like me sing the praises of Shadow levels versus classic Sonic levels, but I do ultimately think that this is a positive thing. Look, nitpicks aside, I still say Sonic Generations is a great game. It doesn't take much work to get your bearings, and the flow state is so satisfying when you play the game on its own terms. It's not badly designed, and if it re-released all on its own without any extra campaigns, I think most of us would have been perfectly fine with it, even if there are some of you out there pretending to be upset over losing that incredible dialogue from the initial release. Alright, that's a low blow. The tweak cutscenes are a genuinely fair critique. The rewrites can be jarring, and if they were going to toy with the cutscenes, they should have at the very least made the extra effort of having the animations line up with whatever's going on in this new dialogue. You went from a comment about classic Sonic's potbelly to this.
Thanks, Sonic. Now then, tell me, where is the rest of my island?
Ooh, Knuckles, I'm sorry. I ate the island and now it's giving me an ouchie in my tum-tum. Guess that's why they call me Sonic the Hedgehog. Cause I'm just a little piggy wiggy who eats and eats and eats, and I'm going to eat more islands.
And I'm going to eat everyone and everything. I'm gonna make you a squeaky red poopy whoopie.
Oh no.
Yeah, I thought that was weird that was the only bit of dialogue they had classic Sonic say.
Kill Sam.
And personally, I thought Sonic holding Amy back by her face was so casually dickish, but still kind of funny. Like, I enjoyed enjoyed that their relationship was so weird that this was just a normal thing. And even with a hand in her face, Amy ain't stopping. She doesn't care. I just appreciate subtle little things like that. But yeah, I understand why they changed that. They do really make Sonic look like a jerk there. So I'm not too fussed on it. And honestly, that's the worst of it when it comes to changes. The game still runs fine. The extra chow are inoffensive. Just gets you something else to do. And Shadow Generations, despite my whining about the resolution or the occasional interruption of Radical Highway, shows a lot of growth from the Sonic side of things. We've had a long time to pick apart the original game. And yeah, they fumbled here and there trying to address some of the things we whined about, because a lot of us did whine about the script of the original game. But all of those complaints aside, if you look at what Shadow Generations is doing, it really did improve on everything that everyone wanted from Sonic Generations. The gameplay is far more consistent even when hopping between white space 3D levels and 2D levels. Heck, we have a really fun hub to explore, true genuine 3D gameplay, a far more compelling story, challenges are better, and I would argue that the levels are better when compared to Sonic Generations, which is saying something because I think almost all the levels in that game are fantastic, and the difficulty is way more balanced. Shadow Gens does a much better job helping you get to grips with the gameplay while ramping up the difficulty at a healthy pace. I know Sonic games are famous for being challenging for beginners, largely because they don't play like any other platformer. That element of speed can really screw things up, but you can still have fun while failing, and that's something I was hoping this franchise would learn from the Tony Hawk series. Most of the games of that franchise understand addictive arcade action, and that's always been something that's been a part of Sonic's DNA. And I think Shadow Generations understands those ideas. Even while I felt I was rusty with everything, I think the letter grade better informed my gameplay ability, but I also felt compelled to try again and again and learn the basics, because I was having a fun time even if I was doing bad. Heck, this game even helped me enjoy boost gameplay even more than the likes of Sonic Frontiers. I still don't enjoy this style of gameplay quite as much as I do the original adventure. Again, that might be a bit of nostalgia, but I just like a little bit more freeform when it comes to 3D gameplay. I feel like the boost stuff kind of limits it, but at the same time, I do think it makes sense for a high-speed platformer like Sonic, so whatever, that's a bigger conversation for a different time. End of the day, Shadow Generations is an incredibly balanced version of all the different gameplay styles that have been in main-like Sonic games for the past 35 years. We have seen Sonic Team try to merge all of that stuff together before, and it's failed, but Shadow Generations tries that idea again, and I think it did it brilliantly. It almost makes me forget about all the failures between Sonic Generations and Sonic X Shadow Generations. Sonic Forces learned the wrong lessons, and Shadow Generations showed that Sonic Gens wasn't the pinnacle of this style of gameplay. There was still room to grow, and honestly, I'm really excited for what comes next in the franchise. So yeah, the game holds up, and the Switch 2 version is just fine. I only have to get nitpicky because there are other versions of this game out there, and if you're going into your brand new Switch 2 expecting this to just blow you out of the water, you might just want to go in tempering those expectations just a bit. It is a better version compared to the Switch version, and probably the PS4 version or whatever else, but if you got a PS5, play it on there. But if you only have a Switch 2 or you're really just looking for an excuse to get something for your brand new machine, this game will do you just fine. Again, whatever the case may be, play the game. It's one of the best of the Sonic series, and I'm happy to say that again after all these months. There is room for improvement, but I'm really excited and actually a bit confident in Sega to really show us what the Hedgehog can do next. And if you made it this long into the video, hopefully by this point you understand that despite the nitpicking here, I do genuinely love this game. All of it. I'll definitely do a deeper dive on Sonic Generations down the road, and if you want a deeper dive on Shadow Generations specifically, well, I have an almost hour-long video all about it, so go check that out. If you want to go support the channel, of course, there is a Patreon. I'll get you access to the Discord server, some videos early, and hopefully some other stuff. I'm working on it. And once again, if you are going to pick up any figgies, please use my link. It really does help support me, and it does get you a discount. I'll have a link for that as well. So thank you for watching, and Kill Sam Procrastinates. And an extra special thank you to these fine folks here at the $5 Turtleoid tier on Patreon. Cirrus the Skeptic, Kill Sam. Josh Strider, Kill Sam. Trey Nobles, Kill Sam. Hatsworth, Kill Sam. Tiny Jericho, Kill Sam. Ginger Bob, Kill Sam. Jack of all Spades, Kill Sam. Tristan Trapp, Kill Sam. Meekers, Kill Sam. Bo Bennings, Kill Sam. Quote, Resident Fanboy, Kiss Sam on the Mouth. Miles the Power, Kill Sam. Singer J199, Kill Sam. Sam Webster, damn. Okay, well, maybe you don't, because, Anyway, let's drop this joke. Dwight Graham, Fish Flop, Lucas Lipker, The Bad Pal, Jonathan Dobbs, Chad, and Mr. SP, Cecil the Gallade, The Dark Neon, Stefan Placonica, 3 Monic, Graham J. Hall, Lenny X, Wayne is Boss, David 20 Covers, Trash Baphomet, Interjack 5, Grayson Conager, Xerxes the Renegade Jin, Ven 101, Sindarin 7, Rabbit Prime, Twilord, Crimson Rose, Roxas the Cat, Godzilla, Akuda of Salt, Alexander Watson, Neil Gampa, Conan Kudo, Deluxe the most powerful ship in the 2 universes, Kaido Prower, Spearmint, Phoenix Wrong, Below Average Attorney, Penn Adelaide, Daza S, Mew is not beating the Tails allegations. I really don't want to know what those allegations are. Just another evil robot clone seeking revenge on Sam. Gob, the RSI, Salem Hollow, Siegfried Wilder, Nabernyard, KB, My Great Rolls, Cho Henshin, One More Sonic Robot, Psychic Clips, Milaush, David Slayer 05, Gideon Wells, Devil 115, and Nyaza. I really hope I don't get demonetized for that stupid joke, but you should kill Sam. Toot toot, Sonic Warriors!